So welcome Texas Lawyers Wellness. My name is Shayna Fallhaber, and we are very fortunate to have a wonderful speaker for you guys today. His name is Lee Winkelman, and Lee is a former big law attorney and now, depending on who you ask, employment or recovering employment attorney.
Yeah.
He is well versed in all matters of things wellness and is actually also a personal trainer. Today, he's going to speak to us on practicing compassion, the art of being a lawyer. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming our presenter today, Lee Winkelman.
Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I'll tell you that I saw Shayna this, and one of the reasons I wanted to record this was I really put a lot of love into this talk, and it ended up blowing up. I usually go through about 30 slides in an hour. I've got 51 slides to get through, so I've got a long way to go and a short time to get there. But know that this is being recorded, and sound as long as you want, and we'll get you a copy of it regardless. So without further ado, let's hop in. So about me, here's the first thing you know about me. Like, I am on this earth. The reason I am here is to serve and to help people. Okay, seriously, I'm not saying that to pay lip service to that. That's what I truly believe. So I'm doing this because I hope that it helps. I hope that somebody can take something from this that will, change their lives in some way, that it's a net positive. Okay. And here's the thing. So if you want to reach out to me, if you want to talk about this, after this talk some more, I'm happy to help. I'm happy to talk to you. I'm happy to provide whatever resources you might want. So please, I will make my contact information available so everybody has it. So, like Shayna said, I'm a big law attorney, or former big law attorney, I guess. I've been practicing since 2003. I've practiced law in virtually every way possible, almost. I started off working at, I guess, consecutively for 3 very large, national law firms, and then sort of a trial boutique. And man, within the first 9 years of my practice, okay, I probably billed on average 2,700 hours a year. All right. And that is an ungodly amount of hours to bill. That's an ungodly amount of work. And it's something that I would never recommend to anybody. And it almost killed me, literally. Completely burned me out. And I have a lot to say to me, a lot about how a lot of those hours are sort of like, I don't know, pointless hours at the end of the day because of how burned out you get, all right, on it. But let's just say that by the end of those 9 years working that way, it was unsustainable for me, and I hated it. The practice of law had become a complete trigger for me, a complete trigger. I was living life angry and afraid. Just angry, afraid, and out of shape. And that was the thing, right? By that point, I guess I was, in my mid-30s. I had my 40th birthday looming, and I was like, something has to change. Something has to change. So what I did was I basically was like, look, I've been doing this big law thing for a while at this litigation boutique. Let me try something completely different. So I took a job close to home. There was a lot less hours, a lot less pay too. Okay. And something that I'll say never sat well with my wife at the time, and which ultimately ended up with us splitting, which is ended up being awesome for me, but at the time too bad. Whatever, get that in a second. But starting this time, whenever I sort of started downsizing my law practice and taking some more time for me, I went on this journey of sort of intense, personal discovery. I started sort of with the working from the outside in. All right. So I was, like I said, I was really out of shape. And I feel like I had to do something, or I was going to die of a heart attack by the time I was 40 years old. So I went on this sort of first this journey of getting the outer person, into shape. And this ultimately, led to this discovery that, look, you're doing all this for the person outside of you. You need to never be more beautiful on the outside than you are on the inside. You need to work on, the inside of yourself. And so, this has sort of run itself up to a culmination of of all of sort of how I've gotten from point A, living life as a miserable, angry, scared lawyer, to someone who I feel like at least has, managed to get to the point of having a very peaceful life, a life that is complete opposite of what it was 9 years ago. All right. So, like I said, I've practiced law in virtually every way possible. I've not enjoyed a lot of it. And I tried to quit. I became a personal trainer for a while, got pulled back in. The key to me was finding a way to practice law that was sane, right? And that's why I'm here. That's why we're here today. I'm somebody that was miserable with law, and I am here to try to give you a solution and try to give you a way, if that sounds like you, if that resonates with you, out of that. Okay. Anyway, so as a personal trainer, I'm also an amateur artist, and you'll see a lot of art themed stuff, that I talk about throughout this presentation. I do stone sculptures. My wife's an artist as well, and I'm also an amateur philosopher. So a lot of this, I don't want to say I bait and switched you, but a lot of this is going to be philosophy, specifically Stoic philosophy. And a lot of you are probably familiar with the Stoics and have heard of them. They're sort of really popular right now, but that's going to be, those are a lot of my inspirations, and I'll go through those in a second. So about this talk, all right, I still can't resist the urge to tell you where I'm going to go, sort of do the lawyer thing, right? Tell you where I'm going to go there, tell you where I've been. All right, so the art of lawyer in and of itself, right, is sort of the art of living a life, a fulfilling life of peace and happiness in a profession that does everything it can to try and rob you of it, right? The Greek philosophers talked a lot about living the art of life, right? And that was living a moral life, living a life according to philosophy, as they called it, all right? And it was a philosophy of life. And that's ultimately what the art of being a lawyer is. It's a way of looking at the external world, right, and living accordingly. It's work, though. But at its heart, and here is sort of this is where I kind of depart from, I guess, the Stoics, and this is my particular spin on it, all right? Because I see our profession as one that sucks a lot of power from us, all right? Or at least we give a lot of power to, I guess you should say, and we let it control us, right? So the art of being a lawyer, really, right? The art of living a life full of peace and happiness is it's a method to, or what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to take your power back from the world first, okay? You're going to take your power back from those things that are controlling you. You're going to control yourself. You're going to harness all of that power, all right? And you're going to decide to live a life full of virtue, a life full of love. And you're going to harness your talents. And then you're going to gift yourself back to the world in love. That's what it's all about. It's about taking your power back, harnessing that power, and using it, right, the way you want to use it. Using it to make the best self possible so that you can give yourself to the world, so you can serve the world. Because after all, that's what we're here for at the end of the day. And like I said, these ideas are by no means original to me. It's just my spin on it. All right, your mileage may vary. Just the way this is written, I can't resist, or I end up using a lot of yous and this is what you should do and that sort of thing. But know this, I mean, I am not being normative with this at all. This is something that has worked for me, and it's something that's worked for countless others. Quite frankly, it's worked for my wife. These are all just ideas. And so if they resonate with you, great. If they don't, I'm happy to talk to you about it. Maybe I can explain something better. I'm trying to be as clear as possible, but it's somewhat dense material. It's a lot to go through. So please, by all means, I'm happy to answer questions. So we're going to go through, here's sort of the progress of the talk. We're going to talk next about my starting points and my givens, all right, and my axioms. You can tell this is an ambitious talk, okay, because we're going to go through God and the meaning and purpose of life in about 2 slides, okay? We're just going to knock that right out, all right? So, and then we're going to go to what are called the 3 disciplines. These are the 3 Stoic disciplines. The discipline of perception, all right? This is all about taking your power back. The discipline of willing acceptance, about harnessing your power, okay? And the discipline of unselfish action, gifting yourself back to the world of love. Then we're going to talk about practices, all right? Remember this, all right? Here's your first biggest quotable quote or whatever. A principle without a practice is a pointless principle, right? You can all agree. I've written enough employment policies to tell you that if an employer has a great, anti-harassment policy, but doesn't use it, right, they're going to be liable for something, okay? you can have all the great ideas in the world, but if they don't sort of cash themselves out in the real world through practice, then they're really pointless. And by the time we're done, I'd love to say that your life will be changed forever. But like I said, I think that you will have at least something to take with you, to think about. And if you really, I can promise you that if you're sincere about this and this is something you want to try and really put some work into, it will absolutely change your life. It has changed mine. Like I said, it has changed countless others. So my starting points, all right, these are sort of like the things these are my assumptions. And I want to be very transparent about these things. And this is why it's important, because a lot of times everyone has a worldview. Okay, understand that everybody has a worldview. They have a way. They have sort of like their basic assumptions about the world, and everything else is sort of an inference from or deduction from that. Okay, and your worldview involves sort of how the world, how everything came to be, why there's something rather than nothing. Morality, what your morality is. Okay, that's your sort of your worldview. How we know what we know, that's your worldview. We all have these assumptions. We might even know what they are. But when we're talking with people and maybe they say something that doesn't sit well with us, it can very well be that they're just assuming something that we don't understand, all right, or that we don't know. So I want to be very clear on my assumptions. So if any of this seems fishy to you or doesn't seem right, you'll understand sort of it all makes logical sense and where I'm coming from. All right, first of all, you need to know this about me. I'm a Christian, okay? And that's going to inform my worldview. It can't help but do that. It also informs my spirituality, but there is nothing about this talk that is spiritual. In fact, that's by design. I have completely sort of pushed that off to the side. I would encourage everyone, though, however, right? If you don't have some sort of spiritual practice, if you've not looked into spirituality or something you haven't thought about, think about it, okay? And if you do have a spiritual practice, if you do have a higher power, or if you're a Christian or what have you, these things, these ideas that I'm going to talk about meld really, really nicely will meld really, really nicely with any sort of spiritual practice. I'm happy to talk to you about that as well. So here's sort of principle number one of what I believe, right? So there is a God, or you can call it a higher power. People call it the universe, whatever you want to call it, right? But a creator, all right? He created me in all things. That is a non-contingent being, okay? That necessarily exists, all right? And I am not that being, right? It's there is a God and I am not that God. I am a contingent being. I'm going to die one day, right? I don't have to exist. I'm a contingent being. All right. God, though, it's important that you understand my conception of God. God's by nature completely good, benevolent, has providence over all things, meaning God shapes everything and works everything for its highest good. And our problem, the reason we can't sort of see it that way, is one of perception and perspective, because we can't see things outside of time the way that God sees them. We can't see sort of the consequences of certain events, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's hard for us to see that things are working out towards their highest good, but that's sort of an article of faith. All right. The meaning of life, okay? And like I said, these are going to be my givens. I'm not going to give you sort of long drawn out arguments for them. We can talk more about them, but you're going to hear it right now, the meaning of life. You want to know what it is? Okay. We're supposed to live a life of love and virtue and cooperate with each other, okay? Because that is our nature. That's how we're designed. We're supposed to live that way. That's what we're here to do. The problem is we don't. We hate, we're angry, we're afraid, and we compete with and we kill one another, okay? It seems that we have the unique ability among all creation to act directly contrary to our design, to act directly contrary to our nature, okay? A dog always acts like a dog. A cat always acts like a cat, all right? They're going to do cat things, dog things. We, however, have the ability to make a conscious decision to act wrongly, right? To act in accordance with our ego and to hate instead of love, right? To be afraid instead of to have faith and hope. And know this, it's the ego. The ego is the enemy in all of this, okay? The Greeks believed, and the Greeks would call these things like anger and fear, stuff like that. They're your passions, okay? That we are these beings that have a spark of divinity, but we're also beings that have this sort of animal nature, okay? And so this animal nature, you can call it the ego, whatever you want to look, there's different words for it, whatever. But it's basically the part of you, okay, that is fundamentally selfish and absolutely prefers to be scared and angry and to be a victim, right? Because when you are scared and angry and you are a victim, who are you focusing on? You are focusing on yourself and yourself alone, and you are not helping other people. You are not serving other people. You are being, these are fundamentally sort of selfish behaviors. They're keeping you from serving your purpose. And the ego then really does become the enemy. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about is really all about rooting out the ego, right? Identifying the ego, identifying selfish behavior, selfish urges, that sort of thing, rooting those things out. And once you do that, once you start to root all these negative emotions out, you will see that virtue just sort of naturally springs forth. Love just sort of naturally springs forth. So life then is a process of growth, all right, continually shedding the ego and awakening to our highest self. I hope you've all heard that term before. But the Greeks had a term for this, the highest self, the spark of divinity, spark of divinity. They call it your inner, your daemon, not demon, all right, it's Daemon, daemon. Anyway, sort of like your soul, your spark of divinity. And eudaimonia is being good with that, being good with your highest self, right? Living in accord with your highest ideals. That was the idea of the good life for the Greeks. So a good life then is not one that's full of good possessions, good reputation, good health. And it's not even about how many lives that you touch, okay? Because as you'll see, and we're going to talk about, you have no control over those things, all right? Well, a good life is one that's lived with virtue, all right? Courage, fairness, wisdom, self-control, love. That's the measure of a good life, all right? The idea is that you go through life becoming this type of person, shedding selfishness, all right? Building virtue. And by the end of your life, what have you built? What does that look like? What does that person look like, right? That's the measure of a good life. And what the knock-on, sort of result of all of this is that anybody can do this under any circumstance, okay? So life then becomes like poker, right? I don't play a lot of poker, but what I know about poker is that you don't have to have the best hand to win, right? It's about what you do with it. And I don't even know what you do with it in poker in order to win without the best hand, but apparently it's a thing, right? So if you play poker, play cards, I think this analogy works, right? So we always talk about the hand you're dealt in life. That's not what matters. And we can't look at people and compare them and see the hands that they're dealt and say that, oh, one person is better than another or whatever. It's the silliest thing ever, right? It's what you do with that. So you can be given very little and do a whole lot, all right? I'd say I went to the University of Texas. If you know anything about University of Texas football, I promise you they do less with more than anyone, right? So you see there's a lot of people out there that have a lot, that do very little with it. There's people that have very little and do a whole lot with it. That's sort of the point. Now, why are we here? Sort of what am I here for? And I think I talked about this at the very beginning. We're here to serve. We're here to love. There's a Marty Robbins song. It's beautiful. It's called "We're Here to Love." Look it up. It's amazing. That's what it's all about, right? We're made to be in community. Okay. That's why we're not alone. All right. We all have unique talents. We complement one another if we'll let ourselves. We actually, some of us have talents that complement other people's talents. Okay. And we should search those things out. The best analogy, I think, and it's one of the Stoics use a lot. I think it's what you should think about when you think about your fellow man, okay, your fellow woman, fellow person, all right, is that we're all part of one body, all right, and a body has a lot of different parts that do a lot of different things, right? A foot doesn't do what a hand does, a hand doesn't do what a foot does. But is there one that's more important than another, right? You willing to get rid of your ears or your nose? I mean, what's more important? We all do different things. None is more important than the other. And if you can see yourself, you can see humanity as sort of one big body, right? And that we're here to cooperate and work with one another so that body works fundamentally smoothly to push humanity throughout history. If you can see that and get that perspective, to me, it's very obvious sort of why we're here and what we're here to do. Okay, my sources. So this is one of the Stoic philosophers, Marcus Aurelius. Stoicism this just to sum up, a comprehensive worldview that teaches the path to human happiness is found in accepting each moment as it comes, as it presents itself, and through cooperation with love for our fellow neighbor. All right, and this is a lot of what I'm going to talk about. Some of the philosophers I'll talk about are Epictetus. He's one of the first. He's one of the Greek Stoics. He was, we're talking about, maybe 20 years, 100 years before the Common Era. You've got Marcus Aurelius. Marcus Aurelius was the emperor of Rome in the 2nd century. He was one of the 5 good Roman emperors, with amongst a lot of bad ones. Speaking of which, Lucius Seneca was the sort of personal advisor to one of the worst ones, maybe the worst, Nero. This would have been around the 1st century, so around 60 AD. And Seneca was accused by Nero of plotting to kill Nero, and I think he was. And Nero ordered him to commit suicide. So, I guess you don't have to do everything your boss says, but that's Seneca felt he did. All right, so I also am taking some of my sources from the New Testament documents, and this is not as a religious text. This is just a example of 1st century writing on philosophical ideas. Okay, because what you'll see is, if you know anything about Christianity, you know anything about Stoicism, boy, they are more than cousins. I mean, there is a direct link between the two. Okay, in the book of John, the writer identifies Jesus with the Logos. Okay, and the Logos was, in Stoic thought, basically God. Okay, it was the thing that that drove everything, the thing through which all things were made. Okay, so there's a real identification between the two philosophies. Talk about the Logos, and then what I'm really going to draw on, though, are Christian notions of love. Okay, because I think that the idea of agape, this is a Greek term for love, is a very powerful one. It links as close to the idea of compassion as we can get in English. So I'm going to draw a lot on that. All right, let's hop into this quickly. Already, oh boy, not a lot of time. All right, the 3 disciplines. All right, the first discipline is discipline of proper perception. All right, this is a little sculpture I did. Her name is Sophia. She's an owl, and her little tagline is, "The beginning of all wisdom is proper perception and perspective." All right. Marcus Aurelius says, "You take the things you don't control and define them as good and bad. And so, of course, when the bad things happen, or the good ones don't, you blame God and you feel hatred for other people responsible, or those you decide to make responsible. Much of our bad behavior stems from trying to apply those criteria." And Epictetus says, "Men aren't disturbed by reality, but by the view which they take from it." Okay, we're going to unpack all this here in what we're about to talk about. So first, when it comes to the discipline of proper perception, you have to maintain absolute objectivity of thought. Okay, see things dispassionately for what they are and not what you judge them to be. Secondly, fully identify and understand the difference between those things over which we have control, those things over which we only have influence, and those things over which we have no control. All right, I'm going to unpack both of these, but you do these things and you will be very well on your way to taking your power back from the world. That's what this first discipline is all about. All right, here's our problem, right? It's not external objects or events, but our interpretation of them and judgments that we place on them that are the problem. All right, so follow me on this, but your house burns down, okay? And you're like, "Oh my gosh, that is terrible. That is so bad. That is the worst thing that could ever happen," okay? There is nothing inherently bad, okay, or good about your house burning down, right? It is all, absolutely all, a judgment of what you are putting on it. And that goes with anything that happens to you, okay? Generally speaking, whenever we say that something is good, all right, what we mean is that it serves our purpose, or it's what we had planned, or it's what we wanted, right? But the problem is that good is a moral term, right? Good, it means good morally, right? They're terms of judgment, not identification. Nothing outside of you, nothing external to you is by its very nature good or bad, right? It's the label you put on it. Understand that. All right, we're gonna work up from there, but you have to first make that, really get that through your head. The things that are outside of you are just neutral, and it's the way you view them that determines whether or not they're quote unquote good or quote unquote bad. All right. And there's nothing inherently good. And when we're talking about, when we say that, things that are good or things that meet our expectations, there's nothing inherently good about things meeting our expectations. Trust me, there's plenty of times in my life when my expectations have been dashed and it was a heck of a lot better for me than had my expectations been met. Okay. Remember, so you judge it, so it goes. If you judge it as bad, it will be bad. If you judge it as good, it will be good. And this is also to the inference. The issue is there's an issue with inferences because we're inference machines as lawyers. This is what we do. We talk all about inferences, right? And so, it's not just that we judge something good or bad, but then we also start to infer things from it, or we start to see things as signs or read into things, right? Don't. You have to just take it as it comes. Take it, see it neutrally, be dispassionate about it. It's either good nor bad, it just is a fact, okay? So the solution to that is objective perception, all right? Our perspective, or sort of lack thereof, ultimately prevents us from even judging accordingly. And this is why I'm gonna urge you not to even judge. I'm gonna tell you the parable of the Chinese farmer if you haven't heard it. It's a very good one. I hope this will sort of crystallize this idea. Okay, so there was a medieval Chinese farmer, right? And on day one, the first day, the farmer's horse breaks through his fence and escapes. The townspeople come to the farmer and say, "Oh man, this is terrible! I cannot believe your horse broke through the fence and escaped." The farmer says, "Maybe, maybe." And they're like, "No, this is terrible. This is terrible. Maybe, we'll see." All right, so the next day, right, the farmer's horse returns with 6 other horses. So now the farmer has 7 horses. And he wouldn't have that if the farmer's horse hadn't broken through, the day before. So the townspeople come to him and they say, "This is amazing. I can't believe this. You got 7 horses, man. How fortunate for you." He goes, maybe, we'll see. All right, the third day, the farmer's son attempts to break one of the horses, falls off, breaks his leg. Townspeople come and they say, "This is terrible. Oh my God, this is terrible. I cannot believe this. Your son broke his leg. It's horrible." Farmer says, "We'll see. Maybe." Right. The next day, the emperor's army comes through the village looking to conscript all military males. But because the farmer's son had broken his leg, they pass over him. Right. And the townspeople come to the farmer and say, "This is amazing. This is amazing." And he says, "Maybe." I hope you get the idea, right? But you see the sequence of events. You see how that, these are just isolated events, the consequences of which we don't even know, right? And I think, and I want to encourage you to, as you reflect on this, to kind of reflect on times like this in your own life. Look for times where something you thought was terrible, at the time ended up being the greatest blessing that you've ever had, and I guarantee you it's happened. So understand that things tend to work themselves out. And at the end of the day, they're just on their face neutral. Okay, because we never know what one thing will bring. We've also had I'm sure we've all had things that we thought were blessings that end up being, a big headache or a big nightmare. So, don't put too much judgment into it. Don't put, any real judgment into the things that happen to you externally. All right. Control and influence. Understanding this is absolutely key. Okay, Epictetus said, "The chief task in life is simply this: to identify and separate matters so that I can say clearly to myself which are externals, not under my control, and which have to do with the choice I actually control. Where then do I look for good and evil, not to my uncontrollable externals, but within myself to the choices that are my own." All right. If you start with this idea, you got to separate out what I have control over and what I do not have control over. And I'm only going to call those things that I have control over good or evil. All right. That's the idea. And I don't know if you've heard, if any of you are familiar with AA, you might have heard the serenity prayer, right? But it's all about, it's the same idea. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Okay, here's the thing, everyone. Congratulations, you're about to know the difference. All right, I'm going to give you this wisdom right now on this next slide. All right, everything in the blue circle that you see, right? That's what you have control over. That's what you can change. All right. That's what you have the ability to change. All right. Everything outside of that blue circle, you don't. All right. Those are the things you have to accept in life. All right. So the things that are 100% within my control, my emotions, yes, they are, believe it or not. Your thoughts, yes. Actions, ETA, emotions, thoughts, actions. Pretty much everything that goes on, everything that you do, that you control, boils down to one of these three things. All right. Things not 100% within my control, everything else, and I'm going to refer to those as just externals. Okay. So with respect to externals, it's not to say that you don't have any control, but I don't like to use that term. All right. When we talk about control, what you have is you have influence. All right. You have influence to greater or lesser degrees over the things external to you. I think that if you think them through, you can sort of figure it out. Obviously, we take action in the real world and it changes things, right? We cannot control the outcomes of our actions. We can only control our actions, but we influence those outcomes, right? We have an influence over those outcomes. For this talk, at the very beginning, I said, I'm here to help. I want to serve. Well, my goal though is not that this talk helps anyone, okay? Because I can't set that goal. That's what I want to happen. I want it to help everybody. But my goal has got to be just that I do the very best I can at this, that I give the clearest talk, that I put together the best presentation or what have you. I do the best to my abilities. That's all I can control, and that's all my goals are. I don't set goals that I don't have 100% control over being able to reach. I have a lot of things in my life that I want, but I never set those things. If there is a half of a 1% influenced by anything external to me, that's not going to be a goal, right? Because then who am I supposed to blame if I don't hit my goals, right? I think you get the idea. The problem is that, and this is really, once I understood this was really, I think, a real game changer for me. All right, we go through life. The problem is we crave control, and we go through life basically controlling nothing, not even ourselves. All right. And as a result, we give away the only real power we have, self-control. So all of everything that I'm talking about here is about, in this first part, about taking your power back. All right. And I'm telling you, what I'm about to show you is how we give away our power. All right. We talked about the things that are external to us and the things that are internal to us. So what happens is we don't have control over those things external to us, but we seek to control them, even though we don't have the ability to. All right. And when we fail to exercise the control we want, as inevitably happens, things don't work out the way we want. We get disappointed, we get angry, we get scared, etc. And in turn, allow external events to control our emotions, thoughts, and actions. All right. The only things over which we have control. So we let external events, right, control us, which is when us, our actions, our thoughts, our emotions are the only things we actually have control over. It is what the ego loves to do is completely fast backwards, because the ego loves to, have control. The ego also loves to feel sorry for itself, right? So the ego loves to be angry. The ego loves to be scared, but it also wants to try to control things that it has no control over at the same time. It's a vicious cycle, right? And what you're doing is you're giving away all of your power, right? The only power we really have is the ability to control our emotions and our thoughts and our actions. And when we allow things external to us to control those in any way, shape, or form, okay, then we're absolutely giving up our power. We're giving up our self-control. And as a result, you live life in victim mode, and you're living life from a place of fear and anger, and you're being constantly triggered and controlled. Okay, and this is how I was. I'm telling you, and I hope, I don't know if this resonates with anybody. I'm speaking from experience here. Okay, so the solution is to make the conscious decision to take your power back from things external to you and exercise complete self-control over your emotions and over your actions. Right. So you take that power back. You decide, I'm no longer going to let things external to me control me in any way, shape, or fashion. All right. Absolutely nobody or nothing is responsible for your emotions, thoughts, and actions. Right? You are solely responsible for those things. Take ownership of yourself and take ownership of your happiness. Don't hold anybody else responsible for your happiness, and don't let anyone else hold you responsible for their happiness. All right. You're not responsible for anybody else's emotions, thoughts, or actions either. You're only responsible for yours. Be radically responsible for that. Be the actor in your life and not the one acted upon. All right. Don't say this makes me angry or this makes me sad or what have you. It's like I allow myself to feel this when this happens. All right. Don't say this offends me. Okay. It's I allow myself to take offense. Any emotion that you're feeling or anything negative, really, you're allowing yourself. Okay. I know it may not seem like it, and it may seem you want to blame. Trust me, this was a really hard thing for me to get through my head. I wanted to blame other people. I want to say, but no, they did this and they did that, and I have every right. And it's like, do you like to be angry? Do you like to be scared? Is this how you like to live? Even though, I mean, why are you talking about you have every right to feel this way? I mean, it's just silly. It's maddening. Okay, just don't. I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to allow myself to feel this way. And realize this too, nothing can harm you unless you have made the decision, right, for it to harm you. Okay. Here's some quotes here. We don't have a ton of time. I'm gonna let you read those later, but I'll read one. Probably choose not to be harmed and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed when you haven't been. Right. And I know that sounds simplistic, but trust me, it works. If you internalize that idea, if you absolutely internalize the idea that you are not, and you decide, make a conscious decision, I am not going to allow anybody to have control over my emotions, control over my thoughts, control over my actions. No matter what they say or what they do to me, they're not going to harm me. All right. If you make that conscious decision, it will be actual fact for you. It will happen for you. Trust me. All right. We've gotten through that. The discipline of proper perception. All right. And we talked about being able to see things objectively, and we talked about being able to differentiate between we have control, influence, and no control over it. Right? That is taking your power back. Once you've internalized those things and you've seen how you're giving up your power to the external world, you're going to pull that power back in. You're going to make these conscious decisions to not let yourself get angry, to not let yourself feel fear, right? And you're going to harness all of this. And this is what we're going to talk about next, willing acceptance. All right. This first quote is great. Suffering is our psychological resistance to what happens, right? The problem is that our unhappiness is a function of the difference between the way external events are and then the way we wish them to be, right? So we want our life to be a certain way, and we decide that it's not, so we're going to be unhappy, right? We're not going to be content, okay? And the greater the difference, the greater the level of unhappiness, the less the difference, the less the level of unhappiness. So you're essentially living your life hoping that things meet your expectations so that you're happy, right? You're putting everything, you're putting all of your happiness, right, in the external world. If things don't go the way you want them to go, you're not going to be happy, and you're going to have to wait. If things aren't going your way right now, well, I guess I just have to wait for things to get better so I can be happy again, right? I have to wait till one day for things to be happy, and that's just not the case. Okay, you can accept, you can decide, you can accept, and the Stoics call this the art of acquiescence. Okay, so this is about acceptance. This is about, in the Serenity Prayer, this is accept the things I cannot change. All right, accept them willingly. Accept everything external to you at any given moment as you're given. All right, because we talked about this. To live a good life, right? You live a life of virtue, right? You live a life of love. That's all it means to live a good life. There is nothing anything external can do to you to keep you from living that type of life. Okay, so what you get, what's happening around you, your externals, those are sort of your givens in life. That is what you have to deal with. Now, you do have influence over them, you can change them, and we make plans to do that, and you try your best. Okay, but at the end of the day, you can't count on things always being the way you want them in order to be happy. You're going to have to be able to adapt and influence. I'll talk about that in a second. All right, but I'm going to tell you this, and this is where I go a little bit further than a lot of the Stoics. But I don't say just accept it, right? I'm saying love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. Don't just accept it. Don't just tolerate it. Don't just say, oh, well, I'll just bear through it. Love it. Love it, because trust me, I mean, I look back on my life and I would not, I like who I am today, right? I do. And I would not be the person that I am today if it wouldn't be for all the crap that I've been through, all right? All the trials, all the tribulations, okay? That was what grew me. That was what got me to where I need to be. And I would be silly to loathe that or to look back on that and regret that in any way, shape, or form, right? Love it. Learn to love it. And I'm telling you, when you start getting this mindset that you're just going to love whatever happens, man, you'd be surprised how very few things happen that you even consider to be, oh, this is an obstacle or this is a whatever. We'll talk about that in a second. Everything starts literally going your way. All right. Again, I talked about, here's a quote real fast, I'll read to you, but no, actually I do want to because it's a really good one. All right. So, and one of the things I didn't mention on that last slide, but here's the key, and this is actually the key to all of this. All right. You have to understand that these things that happen in life, they're not happening to you. Okay. That's what a victim thinks. A victim thinks that everything in life happens to me. All right. An active participant in life thinks that and understands that everything is happening for them. Okay. And Marcus Aurelius says this, all right, as a fire overwhelms what would have quenched a lamp, what is thrown on top of the conflagration is absorbed, consumed by it, and makes it burn still higher. What he's saying there is like, be like a fire. All right, you take a fire and you throw anything on it. You throw wood, you throw plastic, you throw even water. If it's a big enough fire, right, it's not going to go out. It's just going to keep on burning, right? It burns up with it, whatever you throw at it. And we can be the exact same way, right? We can use everything that we're given in life. All right. I have a little I guess syllogism for this. I call it Week's Law. Okay. So I say the times we call good in life are good. All right. The times we call bad in life are good because through them comes real growth. At any given moment, we are either calling life good or bad. Therefore, life is always good. And I want to be real clear. When I'm talking about good here, I'm talking about useful, right? How we use that term. We talk about generally things being good or bad. Is it how useful they are to us? All right. So where I part ways from the Stoics is I would say that you can say all of life is good easily because you could use every bit of it. Look, we all have circumstances and we all take actions in life. Either the circumstances of your life will shape you, right? You'll go through life living an unintentional life and you'll be reacting instead of responding to things, and you will be shaped by life, okay? Or you can use the circumstances of your life to shape yourself, all right? Be an active participant in your life, take your power back, right? This is all about harnessing your power, right? Using this power to shape yourself, all right? Think about it this way, and of course I'm going to use I'm going to use the art analogy, the sculpture analogy. The circumstances of your life are the hammer and the chisel that you use to create your own work of art, okay? They are what you use to chip away at that ego, okay? And what is revealed is this beautiful, virtuous creature, right? And the question is sort of, what are you going to build in life? What is your work of art going to look like? How are you going to use these things? And I probably should give some concrete examples, but I'm saying, like, man, it's as simple as if you get stuck in traffic, if you're running late, all right, here's a chance to work on my patience, right? Get dressed down by a client, you didn't deserve it. Here's a chance to work on how do I respond to people that are assholes to me, okay? Everything that happens, and I'll tell you what, and you do that and you respond well and you get a little victory, man, that's a beautiful thing. Absolutely beautiful thing. Do not regret. That's the only way we get better is by being challenged in life, right? So when these things come that annoy you, when these things come that you can't stand, all right, be happy, be glad, because here's a chance to get better. Here's a chance to work on my patience. Here's a chance to love someone who's unlovable, right? All right. This is all about harnessing your power, okay? Now we're going to talk about gratitude, switch gears for a second, all right? When I talk about everything happening for you, okay? That is a gift, right? Life itself is a gift. Here's my logic of it. I mean, life itself is a gift. We're not promised one moment to the next. Every day we wake up is a gift, all right? Meaning that everything we have in life is a gift. And I think we all see this. Easy come, easy go, right? We don't own the things we have. They're on loan to us, okay? It's all a gift for us to use. All right. Now, sometimes it's underwear and socks. I get it. Like, I get it. It's not what we think of, right? It's hard to get excited about some of these things. Getting stuck in traffic, I get it. Yeah, right? Sometimes it's underwear and socks. Sometimes it's a pony. And sometimes you meet the love of your life, right? But be grateful for all of it, all right? Be grateful for all of it because it's a gift. It's a gift. It's like, I mean, I always think of myself as a kid and sort of God as my parent, right? And I think about these things that come into my life and I think about some of my reactions to them. And I think what I would think if my own children reacted, that I had some great intent behind this gift and they sort of like throw it back in my face. Anyway, that's the way I look at it. But, I don't want to ever be ungrateful because I can use every single thing, and to make myself better. And as a result, you need to try to be content with your life the way it is at any given moment. That doesn't mean that you don't try to change your life. You don't take action to try to change your life. It doesn't mean that at all. Okay. You just need to be content with the way things are right now at this very second. And what that leads into is that happiness is not something that's far off for you, right? It's now here for you at this very moment. I have heard too many people, and I see too many memes that talk about like, your blessing's on its way. Your blessing's on its way. Or, I got this card right here, right? Rainbows follow the storms of life. Okay. This is the thing. Like, I don't want to think about my blessing as being on its way, right? That my blessing is here today. I live a blessed life. I'm a blessed person. I have a lot of gifts. Okay. I don't want to think that is someday somewhere far off. Happiness is for you right now at this very moment. All right. Turning obstacles into opportunities. All right. This idea of art of acquiescence is not about resignation in any way, shape, or form. It's not, like I said, it's being content with your life the way it is at any given moment. It doesn't mean that you're not going to try to change things or you're not going to try to influence things, right? You're still going to do that, right? But it's about adapting. Like I said, it's about not sitting there and talking about why is this happening to me and basically complaining about something you can't change, you can't control, or what have you, and just accepting it, right? And doing what you can to influence events and adapt yourself to that. But you have to accept life as it comes every step of the way. If you do this, you will quickly find yourself in the flow and things that you used to think of as obstacles, right, or just any other opportunities, right? Marcus Aurelius said this: the mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacle to our acting. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way, right? Now, what that doesn't mean is you should go look in your life for the path of most resistance, and that's where you should head. That doesn't mean that, all right? It means that whenever we go down a certain path, we hit an obstacle, we have to ask ourselves, is that obstacle surmountable or not? Okay? Because this is an opportunity, right? The obstacle is nothing more than an opportunity to choose a new direction if it's something that you can't overcome, or even better, and this is what happens with a lot of obstacles, they direct more action, right? So we have to take action in order to overcome that obstacle or to find a way around it or whatever. And that is what ultimately directs our path. And that is where the opportunities lie. Okay. It's in what we do with the obstacles, right? That's how it becomes the way. That's where all the opportunities lie. So there are no obstacles in life, right? Everything is just an opportunity to get better. If you look for it, if you look at it that way, it'll work for you that way. All right. The discipline of willing acceptance, controlling negative emotions. Man, this is a lot of stuff to get through. Okay. So this is the hardest part of all of this. Okay. This part I'm going to talk about right now. Because I, for the longest time, for whatever reason, was under the impression that I couldn't control my emotions, or that like it was bad for me to try to control my emotions because that means I was suppressing them or whatever, right? Or that I was entitled to feel a certain way, and so I should feel that way. This idea of like I have a right to get mad or whatever. Anyway, but the problem is with negative emotions is they hit us before we can even, before we can have a chance to really do anything. I mean, generally speaking, a lot of times an emotion will come from a thought. I mean, that happens a lot of times. You might be in a good mood, you start thinking about something, and then you start feeling a certain way, and you start thinking about more negative things, and you start feeling worse, you start thinking about more, that's called a spiral downward, right? That happens a lot of times, but quite often, you will actually, see something or something will happen and you will feel this feeling immediately, right? Before you have a chance to even think about it. So that's what the pause is all about, okay? And that, take a 90-second pause. If you start to feel a negative emotion, take a deep breath, don't react, right? Because this is all about responding to something versus reacting to it. Reacting to something is just feeling the feeling and whatever comes next, right? So don't act impulsively. Think about how you feel and realize that feeling is your ego, okay? That feeling is your ego probably, all right? And it needs to be told to quit being such a baby and kind of put in its place, all right? So Marcus really said this: today I escaped from anxiety, or no, I discarded it because it was within me, my own perceptions, all right? Now, I get that people do genuinely have issues like medical, chemical imbalances or what have you, things that anxiety disorders or what have you. And this is everything that I'm saying is stuff. If you need medication or if you need professional help, you have to seek it. But I will tell you that I was somebody that suffered a lot from anxiety. That this sort of having the idea that anxiety is within me, I can get rid of it, has helped me to get rid of most, if not all, right? And so I was somebody that thought that I had anxiety issues, but it turns out it was all my thinking. But that's not to say there aren't people that genuinely have anxiety issues or genuinely can't do this sort of just through thoughts. But it's something you have to work at. All right, don't just tell yourself you can't. And talk about some great quotes on worrying. Okay, if you can root out worry in your life, this has been the one thing that's been that I thought I'd never be able to do. But I don't generally worry anymore. But worrying is like paying a debt you don't know, right? It's like you're worried about this situation, you don't even, this negative consequence or whatever that hasn't even happened yet. It's like a contingency. And Jesus even said it, right? Don't worry about your life. Anger and fear are the enemies. Okay, living from a place of anger and a place of fear are enemies because they keep us from thinking clearly, okay, and they cause us to react and not to respond. Okay, and remember, it's not about suppressing your emotions. It's about controlling them. In fact, it's about feeling them. You want to feel your emotions and sort of get to the bottom of where they're coming from and think it out. Be logical about it, and think through what judgments am I putting on this? Okay. All right, Doctor. All right, we're discipline of unselfish action. Moving on quickly. So we just talked about how you sort of harness your power, right? So we've identified that we don't objectively perceive things. We label things good or bad and aren't either. And then we have to decide what we have control over, what we don't have control over, and we have to willingly accept all external events, things that we don't have control over, so that we can fully take our power back from them to control what we do have control over, our emotions, our thoughts, and our actions. Okay, and that is all about this last part of willing acceptance. Acceptance is harnessing your power, right?
Oh no.
Am I frog blinking?
Not as good as you were when you were.
Did I actually drink it good?
Gabriella, could you please mute?
Oh, sorry.
No worries. So, all right, unselfish action. Orthopraxy means correct or right action, and that's what our goal is here. Okay, orthopraxy. It's the right next action, and that's living a life of virtue, courage, wisdom, justice, self-control. Those are the four cardinal virtues of the Stoics. All right, and what you'll find is that as you root out negative emotions and you start living with gratitude and in accord with your highest ideals, this beautiful thing happens. Love just sort of naturally takes over as your driving force. All right, as does peace and happiness. And I'll tell you that if you go into this making peace and happiness your goal, that's fine. All right, but what you ought to do is go into it with just the process of sort of the things that I talked about. Go through this process, and peace and happiness kind of comes as a byproduct. Okay, you have to sort of work it until you get there. But that's the idea. That's the game. And really, what unselfish action is all about is identifying the fact that we're here to love. We're here for each other, right? We're we are not made to be fundamentally selfish, but to be fundamentally unselfish. And Saint Augustine called this process. He said that when a child is born, it is curvatus in se, which means it is completely turned in on itself. Right? It's completely selfish. It doesn't even understand the concept of selfishness, selflessness. And the idea of sort of growing in age and maturing is growing from this selfishness out to be a selfless person. And I think we all know people who would say never grew out of that selfishness sort of thing and act like children, right? And that's what your ego is at the end of the day. Say it's your inner child, it's your inner brat, okay? It's that little kid that just always wants its way, that wants you to only think about yourself, all right? And we have to, the idea is to grow past that. I remember we're one body, like I talked about. Hands, feet, shoulders, knees, whatever, they're all important. We all do different things, but we all fit together. And right now, unfortunately, the hands and feet are punching and kicking the face, right? That's sort of how the body, the human body looks, the body of humanity looks right now. Right? We're not working together as one body, but that's the goal. The idea is to gift yourself to the world, right? Do not ever let anyone tell you that you are not God's gift to the world, because you are. I'm here to tell you right now, you are. You're God's gift to the world. I don't know how many times, and I know this has probably happened to everyone here or something similar, where you're just in the right place at the right time to provide a resource for somebody that needs you, right? That's a very simple thing. Every time you have done that, all right, you have been a gift to that person. You have been literally God's gift to that person, because God doesn't generally, rain down manna from heaven or, give us like that we ask for something, just kind of hand it to us, right? He uses people, he uses other people. And that's what this is all about, is we're conduits. We're conduits, we're answers. We can all be answers to prayer for people. And that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. When you think of your time on this earth as being a gift, as being somebody, as being a resource for people, somebody that can come alongside someone and help them when they need help. That's a beautiful thing. I can't imagine anything more fulfilling. Okay. We're going to talk about love real fast. Okay. Jump into compassion. So there's generally two types of love. Okay. There's need-based love, and then there's divine or one-sided love. Need-based love is where there's something that the beloved does for the lover that makes the lover love the beloved. Okay, like so that it's like a mutual exchange. Okay, you're getting things from one another. Right, divine or one-sided love is the opposite. Not I say the opposite, but it's literally you're not getting anything. You're not getting anything from the beloved. You're not doing this because you need anything from this person. You're doing something for this person by virtue of the fact that they're a person. And love, generally speaking, in English, when we talk about love, I talk about I love football, or I love hamburgers, or I love pizza, or whatever. We're talking about like a need-based love. And I think even when we talk about our spouses, for some our significant others, people in our life, a lot of that is sort of need-based love. Koine Greek has a very specific word for divine or one-sided love. It comes from the New Testament. That's what the New Testament was written in, Koine Greek. And the word is agape, all right? Agape. And so, for example, in John 3:16, where it says, "For God so loved the world," right? That word there is agape. For God so agape the world. So that's your clue right there. It's a one-sided sacrificial love, right? And whenever it says so loved, it doesn't mean like God loved the world this much. It means God loved the world in this way. Like, and this is how God agape the world, right? And so I would say that compassion is probably the best word in English for this, okay? Like I said, it is an active type of love. It seeks nothing from the beloved. It only seeks to give. It's completely one-sided and sacrificial. The idea is that you see the infinite worth of every individual and afford that individual the same care you afford yourself. And that's the golden rule right there. But without expecting anything in return, right? It's not a feeling. It's a conscious decision, a choice, and a disposition. And it looks a lot like work, and it is, right? So it's service at the end of the day. But the beautiful thing is it's something we can have for people that we have never met. All right. I can tell everyone on this Zoom, I love you because I see your infinite worth and I afford you. I would the very same care I would afford myself or anyone closest to me. Okay. That is a, you know, and I love that type. I think that I wish we could normalize telling each other we love each other in that way. That I care about you. I care about your good. I want to see you succeed. All right. I can tell everyone here that. You know, and here's a great definition. This is what agape, this is what unselfish action looks like, literally in action. All right, every day, interaction after interaction. We've all heard this at weddings. Okay, love is patient and kind. It doesn't envy or boast. It's not arrogant or rude. It doesn't insist on its own way. It's not irritable or resentful. It doesn't rejoice at wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, endures all things, and love never ends. Okay, that is active. That is a sort of a one-sided, forgiving love, and that is what, at the end of the day, agape looks like. All right, what does this look like? What does this look like at work with respect to other people? All right, listen. If somebody hates you, that is their problem. What someone thinks about you is truly, I say, it's none of your business. It's not my business. You know, the only thing you can control is what comes out of your mouth. That's it. Your actions, what you do. All right. The interpretation other people have about that, you can't control at all. There are people out there that love me, and there are people out there that hate me. You know, and if I was going to let my life be controlled by everyone that hated me, and try to sort of change myself to make them love me, I'm going crazy. Okay, I think you get the idea. Yeah, I love this quote by Marcus. It never ceases to amaze me. We love ourselves more than other people. We care more about their opinions than our own. I mean, it is fine, like I said, it is fine to want to help people. It's fine to want people to think good of you, I guess. But know that you have little to no control over that at the end of the day. It cannot affect you know, how happy you are at all. Remember, you're responsible for your own actions. Take radical responsibility for it. Others are responsible for their reactions to your actions. Same thing. Other people are responsible for their actions. You're responsible for your reactions. All right. Know this: every person is a blessing. Just like everything in life is good, every person is a blessing. I say they're a lesson, a resource, or a rescue, or some combination thereof. I think you kind of probably get that intuitively, right? A lesson. We all have people. Hey, if it's something like this isn't how I want to act, or I know never to deal with this type of person again, or something along those lines, you know, that's a lesson. A resource, you know, a teacher, something you can get something from, or a rescue, somebody you can serve, somebody you can help, because that does as much good for you as it does for them. In general, compete against yourself and cooperate with other people. All right, I think we have it really backwards in life. We have this myth of scarcity, so we have this, our whole economic system is sort of built on competition. And even in our line of work, as lawyers, right? Like there are ways to cooperate when you are competing with somebody at the same time. But in general, think about competing with yourself. Try to get better every day. You know, cooperate with other people. Be kind. Be empathetic. Live by the golden rule. Eleanor Roosevelt. This is a great quote. To handle yourself, use your head. To handle others, use your heart. Our jobs, and this is really, I'm going to get a little lawyer specific here. So our jobs, really, our vocations are the best avenues through which we can express our love to one another. We can agape one another. We can serve one another. You know, we're all connected. Okay, so you know the person that works on all those cargo ships that are getting your food to you at the supermarkets, or not getting your food to you at supermarkets, right? Like they're very much connected to you, and that's just one simple thing. And you can think about several others. But we are all connected. We all touch one another. All right, here's a parable of the bricklayers. If you haven't heard this one, it's a good one. 3 bricklayers are asked, what are you doing? First says, I'm laying a brick. Second says, I'm building a church. The third says, I'm building the house of God. Okay. The first bricklayer has a job. The second bricklayer has a career. And the third bricklayer has a calling. Okay. The one that says, I'm building the house of God has a calling. Vocation means calling. Vocatio. It's from Latin, right? It means calling. So the idea is that you're connecting what you do as a lawyer, right? You're making it your calling by seeing it as the service that you are providing for humanity. This is your way of playing your part to progress the bigger picture. All right. And it's your unique way of expressing love to the world. And this is the beautiful thing, is that we all have these unique talents. And this is what I love, is that I love this idea of diversity at the same time unity, okay? Because that we are all united, but we are all complementary. We're unique. We have something to offer the world that nobody else can, each one of us, okay? And so I think that, when we talk about gifting yourself back to the world and harnessing your power, it's really all about kind of identifying what it is, that you're really good at, what it is you can do unique to you, seeing how you can kind of connect that to the bigger picture, to your service to humanity. All right, now I think I did this. Yeah, this is what I did. Okay. All right, we're gonna not sum up real fast. I don't have a whole lot of time. And in fact, we're already at, Shana, how long have we done?
We are currently 9 minutes over.
Oh, that's it? Okay. All right, good. I want to go through just some of these practices real quick. I'm not going to go through.
I don't know if you saw my message. We were supposed to conclude 10 minutes ago at 1 o'clock. And so
Okay.
10 after the hour, and I do have a 1:30 meeting.
Okay, you do have 1:30? Okay.
Yes.
All right, let me just go through some of these practices that then I think are important. I mean, they're all important, but man, these are good. All right, but there's one that I think is really good. Okay, this one, and then you can do this today. All right, it's called practicing gratitude. All right, so this is something that I came up with doing with my my personal training clients, and it was a warm up. Started as a warm up, a kind of upper body warm up, just holding your hands over your head. But I sort of connected some other things to it. So what you're going to do is you're going to go outside. You're going to go into the sun. All right, it's not hard to do. Today's kind of cloudy, but obviously be careful in the summer. But set a timer for 2 minutes and press start. All right, and then hold your hands above your head. Okay. Now, this is a little meditation exercise as well, but what I want you to do is I want you to feel the warmth of the sun on your hands, okay? And I want you to let that warmth flow down into your heart. Our heart chakra is connected out to our hands, right? It's kind of cool that when we shake somebody's hand, you're actually kind of touching their heart, and that's why when we talk about healing touch, this is all comes from the heart here. So let the sun, warm your hands, let it warm your arms, let it warm your heart, okay? And then understand what a gift that sun is. You probably never think of the sun as a gift, right? But understand that you did nothing to work for that sun. You didn't make it. You don't necessarily deserve it. But man, it keeps everything alive, including you. All right, including you. It is probably the greatest gift. Without it, there would be no life, right? I know this sounds silly, but it is. It's a gift. Everything. And I think once you start to understand that, once you start to see what a gift sunlight is, the sun, right, and how important it is, that will sort of that will build some gratitude in you. And what I want you to do is that as your heart warms, I want you to think of every beat of your heart as being a little thank you, okay, a little thank you back to the universe. And this painting here to the right is one that my wife did. It's super cool. I have done this practice for a really long time, and I talked to my wife about it. And she did this little painting, and it's called Gratitude. It's crazy, and it's exactly what I envisioned. All right, every beat of your heart, right, going back out into the universe is a thank you, is a thank you of gratitude. That's very powerful. That has a lot of energy behind it, and it's just an absolutely beautiful thing. And as you're doing that, as you're saying thank you with your heart, I want you to start to think about your life, right? The people in it, the things you've done, things you haven't done, things that have happened to you. I want you to see the flow of your life, see how it's been guided, and realize that your life and everything in it is a gift, okay? And be grateful for all of it. Remember, sometimes it's underwear and socks, sometimes it's pony, right? But it's all a gift. And let every beat of your heart be a little thank you for those gifts. Once the timer goes off, your shoulders will be pretty sore, your heart should be pretty warm, and you will go throughout the day sort of unconsciously thinking about having that heartbeat of a thank you. Heartbeat of a thank you. All right, and there's one more exercise after this that I want to talk about that kind of builds together. So what you do is you do this practice with one other person. I call this building a bridge. All right, building a bridge with another person, with your spouse or a friend or whatever. But you do the 2 minute exercise over your heads, At the end of the 2 minutes, you build a bridge with that person. Okay, what you do is you come together, you join hands with them, but you just palm to palm, no grasping. So we don't grasp people. We hold people with open palms, with open hands, all right, because they're free to do whatever they want to do. But still, still with your arms overhead, but just leaning into one another. And what's really cool about this is your shoulders will be really sore, but immediately when you do that, you'll get some relief as you lean into the other person because they're supporting your shoulders, okay, as you're leaning into them. And whoa, sorry, that's weird. Sorry. Huh. Yeah, okay, there we go. You will realize that by taking on each other's burdens, right, as you're leaning into one another, right, no one has a burden, actually. And it's a pretty cool thing. All right, receive that person as a gift. Give yourself to that person as a gift. Feel that person's energy run down to your heart and say thank you to them. Send that thank you back to them. All right, and do that for a minute or so, and really use that to start to see people as gifts. Okay. And you know what? I wonder if I have. Yeah, give gratitude and receive gratitude back. I do want to do this real quick. Horizontal perspective. This is a really good one too to build empathy. Okay. And this is simply just imagining that you are somebody totally different from yourself. All right. You want to put yourself in somebody else's shoes for a while. Imagine what it's like to be them. Right. And start thinking about what you even know about them. Imagine you believe everything to be true that they believe. Okay. Even if it's the exact opposite of what you believe, what would that be like? Do you know what they believe? I mean, really know. What do you know about them? What do you not know about them? Do you disagree on something important to you? If so, where's the disagreement? It may not be where you think it is, or there may not be any disagreement at all. And then imagine what their everyday life is like, their hardships, their ups, their downs, how they probably go through a lot of the same things you do. And they probably have a family like you do, and they love just like you do. And you'll start to see the differences, and you'll start to see the commonalities, and you'll start to see what you're ignorant of about that person. All right, and it's great to do with somebody that you consider that would consider you their enemy or what have you. But it's a great way to build empathy, okay? Because you'll realize how little we know of other people, and we don't know what other people are going through. We don't know what their struggles are, and we need to be patient and we need to be kind with them, okay? And then the way you incorporate vertical perspective in this is you take a step back from that and you look at how you both fit in to the bigger picture, right? To the body that I've been referring to. You think about your differences, you think about your commonalities, but you have unique talents, okay? And you know that you're fundamentally the same. You're part of the same body. You are neither is more important than the other, and you each have a role to play in this world, right? And this will go a long way in building empathy. There's a lot more practices on here, but I'm going to be done now since we're way over. Okay, so I'm sorry this took so long. I had a lot of it was an ambitious talk. So, but I'm going to share these. I'll share this this PowerPoint. I kind of it's a wordy PowerPoint on purpose because I wanted to so people can use it as a resource. So have it for people to use as a resource. So, okay. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone wants to stick around, but I think that Shana has to probably end the Zoom.
Yeah, I do need to end soon. Do you want to take off the share screen for a second?
Yes, let's do that.
Awesome.
Okay, let me escape this.
So thank you so much, Lee. Like you had said before, you poured a lot of love into that presentation, and it definitely shows. And it was so wonderful to share this time with you. And somebody's asking if you can share the PowerPoint, and I put my email in the chat. And if you send me an email, I will be glad to distribute it to anybody who wants a copy.
And here's my email too.
Okay.
Email me. There we go.
You sent it just to me, but I will copy.
Oh, I did? Okay.
Into the group. I got you.
All right, hold on. All right.
Got it.
Okay. Thank you, guys. Yeah, I hope, like I said, I hope it helps, and I'm happy to talk with. There's a lot of resources on Stoicism that are out there, but I'm happy to talk with anybody about more about this. So.
Yes, so thank you, and we will be back with Lee and a couple of other awesome presenters. We're doing a panel discussion next month, So stay tuned in our Facebook group, and I will be putting all of the details for that out there very soon. So I hope everybody has a wonderful day. I hope that this has inspired you to move through your week, your month, your year with just a little more compassion. Until next time, see you soon.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Lee.
Yep.
Bye.